And welcome back to Who Would Win, the week of Who Would Wins. And we are going off with the monthly Who Would Win. I got two of the monthly Who Would Wins this week. And the monthly Who Would Win was based off the Akatsuki from Naruto versus the Espada from Bleach. Now, I'll be fully honest with you on this one. I'm being a little lazy today. I am not going to be going through the... I don't have the other images up to show them, but you can see the individuals here. If you've been following the series, you know who they are. If you know who the Espada are, you know who I'll be referencing in this picture here. But we are on with Konan now. Konan is the childhood friend and possible lover, though we never found that out, of Yaiko and Nagato. I'm not saying both of them at the same time. I'm just saying that one or the other. And so her abilities lied in the manipulation of paper. She could basically turn paper into a weapon, like shurikens, blades, transform into paper, create massive amount of paper bombs, and transform into paper itself, which allowed her to avoid serious physical damage. Although things like oil was able to keep her physically together. So how would she fare against the Akatsuki? Now, all the Akatsuki, how does she fare against the Espada? Now, should know, all the Espada have access to the Grand Ray Seo, which is a giant energy blast. Normal Seros, energy blasts. And Sonido, which is basically their super speed, which is arguably light speed, if not greater, or a little below. But with that said, though, when going up against Espada number 9, who, that's where we start always in this, because Espada 10 is actually just technically the strongest Espada, due to the fact that when he releases his abilities, he transforms, and there you have it. He becomes the Zero Espada, making him the strongest. Yami Largo, I believe it is. So, against Anyero, whose main ability is just to eat hollows and take on their powers, and then use it as like a psychological mindfuck. There's not much Anyero can really do with against Konan. Konan would actually pretty much tank him pretty easy. She just slice him up and basically use paper as a blade to just slice the dome of his head off and cause them to just die there. Szayelaporro. Now Szayelaporro is Espada number 8. Szayelaporro has a few abilities that could definitely pose a problem to Konan, but things like the liquid that if it gets on you, it duplicates and makes duplicates of you. That could be a problem for her if it's kind of oil-based or something thicker than water, because we see that water doesn't bother her. She can use her abilities with water. But something thicker like oil definitely is a problem for her. So if that hits her, she might have a problem. But being a trained ninja, she's more than capable of probably avoiding that. And then you have Szayelaporro's serious ability where he can capture you in his tendrils, make a duplicate of you, like a voodoo doll, then start destroying those organs, or take it apart, have little organs displayed in the voodoo doll, crush those organs, and then you affect your body. The problem here is that I don't think that would work on Konan on the simple grounds that A, he'd have to catch her. She can fly, which gives her an advantage, even though he, in theory, could go in the air, but ultimately, the flight advantage really helps her out, and that she could easily just mince his wings apart to avoid that, I think ultimately gives her a win over Szayelaporro. Zomari is Espada number 7. Now, he is the black guy in the very corner here. And so far, just so we know, Anyero is the weird guy with a mask in the corner, if you're not familiar with who they are. He's the weird guy on the second level, or second row here with the mask. Szayelaporro is the guy with the pink hair, and the guy directly to his right is Zomari. Now, Zomari is, his claim anyway, is that he's the fastest Espada, capable of moving so fast he makes 5 after images of himself. I don't think that'd be much of a problem. I don't think any other base forms would be a big problem for Konan. Well, with the exception of probably Barigon, but we'll get to Barigon. Simply because they're going to be using blades most of the time, or Acero. Acero would F her up, but she'll probably disperse and get away from Acero, generally speaking. A blade, she'll just, disperse, cut through that. The problem she's going to have with Zomari is his release form turns him into this pumpkin-esque weird state that has 52 eyes, and each eye, when it looks at something, puts a stamp on an object, and anything that has that stamp on it he can control that with his will. So that it is a dangerous ability to be sure, but the problem here is that she can easily just counteract that by turning into multiple sheets of paper. She can, like, just one of her arms, for instance, she can turn into 52 sheets of paper and just, well, okay, you can control my arm, but whatever. And then just slice him down. Now, he can make a dome to protect himself, but it's paper. She can easily get in through the cracks and just slice him up, take his throat out, whatever. So I think she wins against Zomari as well. Now we're getting into the individuals who she starts to have problems with. Grimmjow, and he's probably the most famous Espada. The blue-haired guy right in the bottom, right in the middle there, is probably the most physically, what's the best way for me to put this? He's the most physically inclined of the Espada. He's definitely the one who prefers physical combat among any of them, even more so than I'd say like Niratora. Simply because Niratora enjoys using his blade more than like his hands, whereas Grimmjow is definitely a melee fighter when you really break it down. So, that being said, he can use a sword. So, he would definitely be a problem. Not in the sense that she couldn't, like, take the hits and disperse, but she can only do that so many times because of her chakra. It's the fact that when you go into his Resurrection, which turns him into this, like, humanoid panther, his durability goes to the point where I don't think she could hurt him. Once we get into this level of power and beyond, I don't think she's capable of really hurting these guys that much. And then, of course, you still got to factor in that he can still use a Cero at will. His final ability, I think it's like Descadera or something like that. Giant energy claws that would tear through her and, like, annihilate her paper, like, burn her paper to a crisp. So that would be a problem. So I think I have to give the win to Grimmjow on that one. Niratora doesn't really have anything outside of a Cero, like for long range, but what he makes up for is just sheer durability. According to him, his Hero is this Iron Skin is the strongest among the Espada. And then if he goes into his Resurrection, he has multiple arms with multiple sides and enhanced regeneration. They can literally just regrow an arm just by channeling his energy into it. And then regrow a scythe. The catch to that, though, is besides the Cero, he doesn't really have anything that can hurt because a blade's not going to be doing much to Konan. That is just not going to. So the question is, can Niratora do, basically, it's more of attrition at that point. No one's doing any damage to the other. So who's tiring out first? And if I'm going to be the guessing man on that, it's going to be Konan on that one. I think her chakra's going to run out before his Ryatsu runs out. Then we get to the top four. Now, by the way, Niratora is the guy who's kind of under the butt of the S here. He's the guy right on the bottom row in the far corner on the left. Now, Ukiura, probably the second, if not the, he's probably tied for the most famous of the Espada. He's the one directly in the middle at the top here. He's not quite as durable as Niratora, at least according to Niratora's states, but he's highly durable. Moves so fast that anyone who's like just can't keep up with that naturally just thinks that he's like a statue. He's moving, so they can't comprehend that level of speed with him. Plus, he can just fire a Cero with his finger like it's nothing, and that's not even getting into his Resurrection, which is Spanish for bat, basically. To which he now is moving. He's so powerful that he's moving at speeds that aren't even comprehensible. His energy is described as being like an ocean. He has energy lances, which you could just easily tear through anything. He has a Cero Obscura, which is a black Cero. And then he's the only one with a secondary release form beyond that, which basically makes him look like a full-on demon. Moving so fast and so powerful that at one point he's moving so fast, he's right in front of Ichigo, and all of a sudden, and Ichigo's like, right, all of a sudden he just appears right in front of him, grabs his head. Ichigo didn't even register he moved. And then he has, I can't even remember the name of the technique. Essentially, it's an energy lance that's essentially a condensed nuke. And there's no way, unless Konan's using like a substitution jutsu, she could survive that level of power. So, Ukiura unfortunately wins that fight if you're rooting for Konan. Then you have Haribel, who's Espada number 3. Now, she is the woman, she's the only woman. She's the one with a high collar and the blonde hair right in the right-hand corner here. She basically, like, just in her base form alone, she'd be giving Haribel a problem because she's using a lot of actual Cero manipulation, swordsmanship, and her energy alone is enough to really give Konan probably some pause. But that's not the problem. The problem here is that her abilities, once she goes into the Resurrection, Tiburon, which is Shark, is that she completely manipulates water. Now, to be fair, I said earlier, Konan seems to be okay with water. Like, she can function in the rain, no problem. I don't think she can function, like, just going underwater, though. Like, that's still, like, soaking paper to the bone, and then paper just doesn't function well after that point. So I think there's got to be a limit to how much water she can handle, but rain is no issue. The problem is, Haruda can just summon God knows how much amounts of water without an issue. And that's not something I think Konan can really overcome. So, unfortunately, I will give Haribel the win in that. Plus, we got to also factor in their high speeds as well. All these guys know Sunita, which is their super speed, which is at least near light speed. And it's probably faster the higher you get in terms of the Espada. Although, again, Zomari said that his was arguably the strongest. He's only number 7, or fastest. Then we get into Baragon. Now, I said it before, I'll say it again. None of the Akatsuki, none of them beat Baragon. Now, Baragon, for those of you who don't know, you can't see him very well because of the way this thumbnail is set up, but he is the old man with the mustache on the bottom row. It's second from the bottom. So, if you're just going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, he's number 2 on the bottom. He's the old man with the mustache. In just his release form, or his suppressed form, his sealed form, he has first off, he was a freaking battle axe. But he also has a time dilation ability that even some of the fastest individuals could not counter. Like Soifone, who's extremely fast, could not counter that effect. So it sucks because even someone who was faster, she's arguably the fastest captain, arguably, couldn't get close to him. Like the minute she got close to him, she slowed down no matter how fast she was going. So none of her attacks will work against him in base form. He can even aid you just by touching you, but because she can turn to paper, that's not going to matter. But then you go to the Resurrection, which looks like the Grim Reaper itself. And he has a miasma ability called Respira, which decays anything it touches. Period. End of story. So, yeah, there's nothing she has that could match him, period. Like, she will end up just rotted pieces of paper on the floor. Then you get to Stark, who's this guy who's just doing this in the top right next to the other guy. He's the second one in. He's a spot of number 1. Now, his shtick is he's one individual spread between 2. Apparently, he's actually a natural Arankar. He's not someone that was made by Aizen. But his power is so great that he had to split between 2 because just his mere presence was killing people, killing hollows. So and he just wanted to have like companionship and a friend. But when he basically goes in, and so his shtick is he has so much power that he can just use a Sero without any sort of movement. Just fire it just randomly from his chest at will. Then if he goes into his release form, which Los Lobos, which basically makes him a gunfighter with the tassels, and he's got like an eye patch. He's got 2 pistols, and he's firing Seros. He can fire cascade of Seros, which, and I mean like a cascade, like it's just, oh my god, you're just lighting up the horizon with Seros. I don't think Konan could really do anything against this. Also, the fact that he can divide his soul as many times as possible, as many times as he can, and create wolves that basically when they attack, they explode into massive explosions, which means Konan would have to do some serious work to take out Stark. And I don't think she could do it. I don't think she's got it in her. And then there's Yami Arigo, or Liargo, sorry, who is spotted number 10 and 0 simultaneously. And in the seal form, he's this giant burly oaf of a guy. Not truly dumb, but he's just, single-minded. But then when he transforms, he essentially turns into a giant F-off kaiju. Which I believe it was 12 legs, an ankylosaurus tail, a gorilla-like body. At that size, there is very little Konan could do, because the problem with the whole paper bomb thing is that, yes, she could set up, but that takes a lot of setup time, which means I don't think she's going to have the time to do it. She could certainly hide paper bombs within the paper she throws, but they would hardly be enough to hurt Ryami. And even if they did, it'd be so minor. You'd probably think of it as like a bee sting or someone throwing a rock at him. Then all he's got to do is basically just do a Sero, which would be huge by his standard, and just wipe out the immediate area, just wipe her out. even if she's substituting away from that, she doesn't have anything to put him down with. So, unfortunately, Yami wins that fight. And I say unfortunately because I feel bad the Akatsuki have been getting so shafted in this series. But, yeah, I'm going to have to, I'll say that, yeah, Yami wins that fight. So, ultimately, she beats 3 out of the 10, which is better than some of the other Akatsuki members have done. But don't worry, we still got 2 more to go. And one of the big ones is this coming week. This Friday. So stay tuned for that. But until then, that's my thoughts on Konan versus the Akatsuki. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe. And I will see you folks tomorrow for Lantern Corps and another Whirlwind. Till then, thanks for watching. See you next time.